Planning for teaching that is inspired by Reggio Emilia methods while also working towards curriculum goals can be a challenge, but there are a variety of ways that it can be done. What will work best for you depends on the specifics of your situation, such as the curriculum goals that you need to meet, or the aspects of Reggio Emilia that you are most eager to explore. This activity is designed to help you practice developing an approach that suits your needs and goals. The main things that you'll need are your usual planning tools, along with the tools needed to research and think about what is currently happening in your classroom. You'll also need some familiarity with the goals and processes of Reggio Emilia-inspired programs. If Reggio Emilia Philosophy and Practice are still unfamiliar to you, take some time first to explore some practices that have been tried and recommended by others before trying to plan your own. There are other videos in this series that you may find helpful, and there are other easily available resources that can help you understand and practice Reggio Emilia-inspired teaching. Community is a central aspect of Reggio Emilia, so don't be afraid to reach out for advice, suggestions, and help. You'll also want to involve any co-teachers, assistant teachers, or aides that you have in this planning activity. In the Reggio Emilia schools in Italy, all of the adults who are involved in the children's education are treated as partners in understanding both the children and the educational goals. Making your planning a team activity will not only bring a greater variety of observations and ideas to the planning phase, it will also mean that all of the adults involved understand and can work together on carrying out those plans. As a first step in this activity, you'll make 2 lists. The first is a list of curriculum goals that you want to or are expected to meet in the near future. The more thorough this list is, the more useful it will be for this activity, because a long list of goals will give you plenty of options for thinking about how to reach goals using Reggio Emilia-inspired practices. You may also have more leeway in meeting some of these goals than others. For example, your formal goals might include not only expectations for core academic learning, but also expectations for the arts, social skills, social or civic virtues, higher level thinking skills, physical activity, safety, or self-care. All of these are amenable to Reggio Emilia style approaches, such as class meetings, provocations, environment, projects, and documentation. The second list you will need is ideas and goals that arise from your interactions with and observations of the children. This provides the Reggio Emilia perspective for your planning. You may already have some ideas in mind, but make sure they're based on your interactions with the students who are currently in your class, not with previous classes or a general idea of what children this age are like. As a first step in this activity, you may want to set aside a week or two to observe and listen to your students closely, with the goal of making this second list. For example, you might take notes on what the students ask questions about, what excites them, what holds their interest, and what they argue about. If you don't have much experience making these kinds of classroom observations, you may want to try the Making Notes and Records activity before doing this one. You can even do that activity specifically as a preparation for this one. When you do make notes for this activity, try to be fully attentive to what the children are saying and doing. Don't just look for ideas that you think will tie in with curriculum goals. Some of the children's questions and interests will be obviously connected to formal school goals. But many of the ideas that you will eventually be able to develop to explore the links between the children's interests and the interests of the community in educating them will not be obvious at first. For example, arguments among the children might connect to social studies or math goals, as well as social or civic education. Questions about time or schedules might connect to social studies, math, or science goals. Questions about themselves or their relationships might connect to social studies, science, or literature goals, as well as to socialization and self-care. Interests in sports or games might connect to math or science, as well as physical, social, or civic education. Fascination with pop culture, music, social media, fads, toys, or technologies might connect to social studies, language, or arts goals. The connections may not become clear without further digging into what it is that the children really want to know. For example, fascination with superheroes might indicate an underlying interest in what it means to be safe, or powerful, or good. Taking time to explore and make more observations about what the children might actually be thinking or wondering may suggest ways to engage with what they are ready to learn. The Reggio Emilia concept of the 100 languages can be very useful here as you learn to listen to the many different ways that the children communicate what they're thinking. To turn your observations into a list of possible interests, try to group related observations in categories that summarize what you think might be going on. If Reggio Emilia is relatively new to you, you may want to make a third list of the specific Reggio Emilia attitudes and processes that you want to focus on adopting or feel ready to try. You may be eager to start a class project, for example, or to explore the idea of the 100 languages. Once your lists are ready, you'll need to set aside a time for comparing and reflecting on them before or during a lesson planning session. Remember to include other adults who are involved in teaching these children, if possible. You're looking for ways to make connections among the lists that suggest specific things that you can plan to do. Again, some possible connections will be easier to see than others. If you have trouble with this step, here are some suggestions. Are there goals for mastering skills that could easily be practiced in Reggio Emilia-style activities, such as class discussions or projects? Are there content goals that might be in line with the children's current curiosities? Are there goals to be met that are a particularly good fit for Reggio Emilia type approaches? If you still have trouble making connections among your lists, you may want to do more research in your classroom or continue to try Reggio Emilia style activities that are recommended by others. Then try this activity again at your next planning session. While it is central to the Reggio Emilia philosophy that you should be responding to the needs of your own students and community rather than imitating what is done in other classrooms, it does take time and practice to develop the necessary understanding. When you do try out class activities that you developed in your own planning sessions, another session of reflection to assess the results will help you hone your planning skills for the future. Here are some questions that it may be useful to ask. What was the curriculum goal, and how well do you believe it was met? To what extent were you able to use Reggio Emilia-inspired processes such as projects, provocations, documentation, and environment? In what ways did you feel you were most successful and least successful in incorporating the children's understandings and interests into the goals and processes? What evidence was there that the children were curious, engaged, and learning, and when did this happen? What evidence was there that they were uninterested or confused, and when did that happen? What did you learn about the children's thought processes? Are you satisfied with the balance you achieved between pursuing curriculum goals and using open-ended, child-centered practices? If not, what might you do in the future to plan for a better balance? As with all open-ended processes, as you continue to make plans, carry them out, and reflect on what happened, Your skills and ability to create classroom activities that meet your teaching goals will continue to develop alongside the development of your students.